Moving on, Arabia. I'm not moving them. They're still, in my mind, T2. They have a desert start bias, which is a double-edged sword. We talked about it a little bit in Morocco. I've actually had much better start locations with Arabia than I have with Morocco, but I think that's luck-oriented as much as anything else. Desert Faith is an extremely strong pantheon, and Petra is the best wonder out there if you can get a good desert start with lots of hills. Now, it's a pretty big if, but in other words, you have the potential with Arabia's start biases to get, and same with Morocco's start biases, to get crazy good land. And that's game-changing. But in of itself, it's only a bias, and you need a bias coupled with a pantheon, coupled with good Petra land, coupled with actually getting Petra. So that in of itself isn't going to change that tier around for me much. It's a potential, but not a realistic something to count on with Arabia. Arabia has a couple bonuses that are so-so. They have caravans gain 50% extended range. That's more useful for trading with other civs and city-states than it is with trading with your own cities. Your own cities are almost always in range of each other with just the base caravan range. So you don't tend to get a lot of use out of that, especially early game, because early game you're running food trade routes internally. But if you do want to send caravans outside of that, that may or may not be actually useful. Okay, whatever. Your trade routes spread the home city's religion twice as effectively. Same deal. Why that's not all that useful? Who cares? Twice as effectively isn't all that much anyways. Because I mean, just regular effectiveness is 9 pressure. So this is going to bring it up to 18 pressure. Yeah, whatever. But even then, it requires you to send trade routes. Kind of meh. You're not going to do that very much, sending trade routes outside of that. Oil resources are double. If you're doing a bomber rush, this is okay. That's quite useful if you're doing a bomber rush. But with strategic resources enabled, everyone's guaranteed to have 7 oil anyways. So I don't know that it matters that much. I mean, certainly it has been useful, but I've never seen that be a game-changing bonus. These bonuses, to me, all of these bonuses here, are kind of middle of the line, right? They're kind of consistently weak and maybe situationally moderate, right? Like not that great, with maybe the oil resource being a little bit better because you can do battleship rushes are a thing too. So those are maybe a little bit better than I might give it credit for otherwise. All right, so what about Arabia makes them tier 2? The Camel Archer makes them tier 2. The Camel Archer and the Bazaar is okay too, but particularly the Camel Archer. Camel Archer is the strongest strongest land-based unit in the game. I think, bar anything. I think that is the strongest land-based unit in the game. It is a knight replacement. It requires horses, in the same way that knights and Keshiks do. I should mention that in a minute too, because I forgot to mention that when I was talking about Mongolia. The horse requirement is actually a big deal. But anyways, this is a knight replacement. It has 21 range combat strength, 17 melee combat strength. It can shoot and move, so it can shoot, move, and move again, or whatever else, so you can do that in the order you want to do that in, which makes it extremely mobile and extremely difficult to deal with. The combat strength is crazy, 21 combat strength. For comparison, a crossbow has 18 range combat strength, a knight has 20 melee combat strength. So this is more than crossbow combat strength. You know, it's about a sixth more than crossbow combat strength, and it's on a unit that can move and shoot, and move multiple times and shoot, so it can move, shoot, then move away again. And it only costs what a knight costs. And you can upgrade chariot archers, leveled chariot archers into camels, or you could upgrade horsemen into camel archers. Both of those upgrades work. These units are terrifying. They're extremely difficult to defend against. They're almost impossible to defend against, in fact. They're very different than the Keshik, and it's because they're just so much more tanky than the Keshik. The Keshik, you can shoot it with some crossbows and hit it with a knight or two and it probably dies. Camel archer, you shoot with some crossbows, it laughs at you and kills your crossbows. Like, it's night and day difference. 16 combat strength compared to 21 combat strength. It's like an era difference worth of combat strength. They're terrifying to deal with. People hate fighting camels because they're so efficient at killing other players' units and killing other players' cities. Cities can't run. That's the other thing too, right? You know, how you defend against camel archers? You can't defend against camel archers with roads, knights, and terrain. But your cities can't run, and if you don't have good terrain, or you have flat terrain, or you can't get enough knights, or you don't have roads, or they come too early, or they come in too many numbers, it's extremely difficult defending against them. I actually have an Inca game where I spend the entire game fighting Arabia with his camel archers, and you can go watch it. They're just crazy good, and they're super brutal to defend against. Okay, so if they're so good and they're so capable of killing other players' cities, why isn't Arabia tier 2? Well, we'll get, or tier 1 rather. We'll get to that. The bazaar is also quite a interesting. This is a decent building too. Oil and oases give extra gold. It's a market replacement. I feel like it gives an extra gold, but maybe the market gives +2 anyway, so I guess it doesn't give an extra gold. So it just gives you extra gold on oases, extra gold on oil, and it generates an additional luxury. Each luxury you have in the city that builds a bazaar can be traded, so it gives you like 2 copies of it. So if you have one, let's say 1 silk in your city, then the bazaar makes that 2 silk. So that's okay. It's not all that useful because players only have so many unique luxuries they can trade you anyways, but and they tend to get locked up in deals before you build markets, but it can be useful. It's not a bad building, but it's not a huge game-changing building. So really all these other bonuses are, all of them individually, kind of weak. Not bad. They're not bad bonuses, but they're not that game-changing, right? They're kind of low-impact bonuses. They're all positive bonuses, which is nice, but they're all fairly low impact. But what this leaves is the Camel Archer, and the Camel Archer is amazing. So why isn't it tier 1? It's not tier 1 because Arabia has no bonuses to defense early, and people are terrified of Arabia. No one wants to fight Camel Archers. They don't want to fight them, and they'll do pretty much anything to avoid fighting them. They might 3v1 you. I've been 3v1'd as Arabia. I've been all-in suicide rushed by composite bows from a neighbor who I had no intention of attacking. You get attacked as Arabia early, and you have to be paranoid of this. I have friends who are playing Arabia, and they've been teamed by 2 or 3 people, sometimes with those 2 or 3 people not even talking to each other, not even planning on teaming Arabia. They're just like, each of them individually coming to the conclusion, I border Arabia, I can't fight Camel Archers, I have to kill him before he gets Camel Archers. And this is like a hidden downside of being Arabia. Everyone is going to come kill you, because they're terrified of what's going to happen when you get to Camel Archers. One of the limitations I forgot to mention in Mongolia, and I want to remember it while I'm thinking about it in Arabia, is that both Keshiks and Camel Archers are limited by horses. So if you don't have a lot of horses, you're going to have all the downsides of being a civ that people think are scary without any of the benefits of actually being able to heavily utilize your unique units. Now, you're guaranteed 4 horses in the capital, but that's not really enough for this type of warfare. You need more than those number of units to be particularly efficient. So you should be cautious when you're settling of making sure that if you're planning to use your unique unit, of making sure you have lots of horses in your cities.